Oh, he's on your phone. Everyone saw him. Hey, g'day guys. Welcome to, I don't know what this is. It's 1v1 me. I got a guest here with me today. What I'm doing is just sort of some live reactions to yesterday's FTC. I was going to sit in by myself, but I thought I would bring in a guest. One of our good mates, Garuda. Welcome to the show, mate. Appreciate you coming along. Bit of a late impromptu. Just thought I'd do this thing. So welcome in, man. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks, brother. I'm great, man. I'm happy to jump in and get stuck into it. There's tons to talk about, all this craziness. So, man, let's roll.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't even know if we got anyone in the chat, but if we do, welcome in, guys. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe. Teasy, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show. I'm just shifting some shit around in the background. All right, so first thing sort of off the rung was Jim Ryan took the stand. I did get a chance to actually listen to this live. I think it's about 2 a.m. by the time this clown got done and jumped off the stand. And he was an absolute clown, I have to say. So I just want to read off what he said. You can sort of see that up on screen. And I'm just using The Verge. Shout out to Tom Warren. Really appreciate his coverage of this. Him and Florian, they've been great, making sure they cover it sort of step by step. Nothing quite like listening to it. I plan to listen to it tomorrow in a sneaky way. But it says PlayStation chief Jim Ryan is taking the stand, kind of, so his PlayStation chief isn't in the courtroom. Or live via a video link. We're about to hear from him thanks to a pre-recorded deposition. So all of it was pre-recorded. It's about 70 minutes long. One of the comments that he made, so I wanted to talk about this. So one of the comments that he made was that Microsoft makes a specific type of game and this is the reason why they're so popular in America, is because they make a specific type of game, and that type of game is a shooter. Which is really interesting. That's exactly what I was like. I think this dude might be reaching slightly. Oh, by the way, nice shirt. Love the shirt. Repping the gas shirt. The old saucy sauce. Look,
represent.
Do you think Microsoft, you personally, see, my thing is on this is, that's just the Microsoft of the 360 era. This guy's living in the past, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of he's jumped on the bandwagon of the perception or the perceived sort of image of Xbox, which does go back to that 360 generation, the Umbra quote-unquote kind of image that they had, but it doesn't hold up to fact, just like everything else Jim Ryan says and does. So Xbox's first-party lineup is the most diverse from not just from a genre perspective than any other first-party developer, I would hazard a guess. So, it's very interesting that he goes and puts Xbox and pigeonholes them into a certain type of game when his PlayStation literally do only make one kind of game. So I think that's silly now when you look at the diversity that Xbox has got and has had for quite a long time now. It's just another case of Jim just lying and crying and dying, and he's just up there and he's got nothing. He's just throwing anything at the wall and hoping it sticks at this point. But yeah, it's just another load of crap coming out of Jim.
Yeah, well, that's true. I would definitely have. Oh, we've lost the screen. Look at that.
I've got it.
Let me bring it back up. Yeah, for some reason, this is again, guys, really impromptu. So apologies. There we go, we're back. So yeah, look, I guess you could say in the 360 days, you could kind of call them the shooter box, right? And that was sort of its name. But I think we've sort of moved past it. I mean, look at the diversity you've got in Game Pass. That's pretty stupid. There is a lot that he said, so I've got to kind of roll through this as quick as possible. There's an echo in the background. What's it, ponies? Hitman echo. Is too loud. Yo, Riskit, your boy got an echo. Ooh.
I'm not getting that, but yeah.
No, I'm not getting it either. Let me just do that. Let's try that now. Try to say something. Garuda?
You good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You sound good to me, brother.
Wow, you're like literally talking without your mouth moving. I think it's the video. Yeah, I'm trying out a new video program as well, guys. So this is interesting as well. Okay, so we'll move on to the next thing. Jim Ryan believes Nintendo is in a different market. So everyone's sort of banged on this about this for God knows how long, man. Like, this is pretty stupid, right? If you can walk into an EB Games or Game in America, he's still got an Echo. Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do about that in the background. But if you walk into, I'll sort that out in the background somehow. I'm gonna give you a bit of time. This is all new. You walk into a game store and there's Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. How are they not the same market? It's a console. It is a console market. Like, I don't know how these guys are trying to differentiate. I can understand you can have like high performing consoles. Yes, the Nintendo is basically as powerful as a phone these days, but I mean, is it? Oh, maybe it's that. But I mean, you can't shrink the market. And the thing that sort of spins me out about this. Sorry, guys, I'm doing 100 things in the background at once. So the thing that spins me out about this is that when you do shrink the market, you actually put Xbox in a worse condition. They end up being worse off. PlayStation has more of a market lead. So why? I don't understand their what the play is here. I mean, normally when you shrink a market, you can shrink it down so that whoever's acquiring someone actually has a better market share. And so whilst they are doing that, Xbox does end up with a little bit of a better market share. PlayStation ends up with a massive lead. So this is really weird. A really weird thing to do. Is it an echo from me? Is it an echo from Garuda?
How do I sound? Am I good?
But yeah, do you think Nintendo exists in the same market? Like, it's and I don't understand the play. Like, I'd normally understand the play if you were doing it in a different market under a different circumstance. But this doesn't make any sense here. Like, when you basically making Xbox worse off. So there's no sense in this. It's really odd.
Yeah, no, this is another very strange one. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, you preface it like this. You walk into GameStop, or for us, still EB Games, and you got PlayStation, you got Xbox, you've got Nintendo. They're video game consoles. That's really about as far as it needs to go. They're all one market, one and the same. I don't know how we can divide the market based on performance and hardware specifications. We've never done that. You don't say that 10 series GPUs are in a different market to a 40 series GPU in the PC side of things, do you? They're all the one market. It doesn't matter about what specifications or what horsepower that is or text in the box. It's a video game system. It's a video game platform, and thus it's all the same. It's all the one market. It's just another way of Jim trying to throw some things at the wall and hoping for the best, and just coming off completely incoherent and delusional, brother. So, I don't get that at all.
Yeah, and he really did sort of get jammed up here. The video on my end is a little bit weird, but I wonder if the video on the YouTube end's a little bit weird if it's catching up. But I did fix the audio issue. I found out the problem. So apologies, guys. That's my bad. Definitely not Garuda's bad. Anything that happens on the stream, my bad. This is completely impromptu. It was like, hey, bro, you want to do a stream at this time? And he was like, yeah, let's do it.
I didn't say it like that.
So we'll move on to the next bit, which is why it's beneficial to have third-party exclusives on PlayStation. I don't think we need to go through that. It's pretty obvious unless you're a complete noob. I think that's the only. This is sort of interesting. Microsoft only offered older Activision games, and Jim Ryan wasn't happy with that. And one of the games that he mentioned was Overwatch 2, which is really odd. So that game was already on PlayStation. So he sort of pointed that one out. He said he wasn't really happy with the list. This is all sort of about had the list. He hasn't really outlined this properly in this. He's sort of picked out points that aren't quite right. So Jim Ryan was sort of asked about an email that he got from Phil Spencer with a proposal of games that would still come to PlayStation. And in that list was Overwatch. Was one of the things that was pointed out was Overwatch, but 2. And one of the things the lawyer sort of pointed out was, but Overwatch 2 is already on PlayStation, right, Jim? And Jim was like, that's correct. So it's like, what are you're looking for? He was sort of looking for bullshit reasons to kick it back, right? Which will sort of bring us up to the next one I'm sort of scrolling up to. I hope it's pretty close, and we should cover it in a second. Here we go. Jim confirms that he wanted the deal blocked. So he was slipping, sliding, ducking, and dodging on this one. He got asked quite a few questions, but I'll read out the blurb from The Verge. Jim Ryan confirms that he told Activision he wanted the deal blocked. Microsoft lawyers bring up Jim Ryan meeting with an Activision CEO, Bobby Kotick, on the same day as the European Commission on February the 21st. We previously heard Ryan had said to Kotick, I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger. Ryan confirms that the meeting happened and what he said. He said he told Bobby Kotick that he thought the transaction was anti-competitive and that he hoped the regulators would do their job and block it. That sounds like complete and utter bullshit to me. Like, as if he would say that in general conversation. You'd be like, well, Bobby, I think this move is anti-competitive and I'd like it blocked. Fuck off, Jim. Does that sound like it rings true to you?
Well, at this point, what credibility, and what this is going to get exposed continually as you read off each paragraph, but what credibility does this guy have left? I mean, everything that comes out of his mouth is just a blatant and utter lie. He contradicts himself like you wouldn't believe. He backs himself into a corner and then tries to talk himself around in circles. Look, man, I told him, Bobby Kotick, that I thought the transaction was anti-competitive. I hoped that the regulators would do their job and block it. Now, let's say that even if he did say that, their job isn't to block the deal. Their job is supposed to be to do what's best for the consumer. But like we've heard many, many times, I think that during this hearing, the FTC has mentioned Sony PlayStation something like 70-something times and mentioned consumer not even 20 times. So even if that was true, their job's not to block the deal. It's meant to be to look after you and I as the consumer, but that's not happening.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting sort of point as well. When we talk about all this sort of stuff, is that a lot of people relate or will relate. I sort of said this in the last Xbox Infinite, relate that it's an American regulatory board blocking an American company. That also shouldn't matter. And again, I spoke to Florian Mueller about this, and he said you're being sort of living in an idealistic world. And that's probably true, because it probably does go on that companies that are, regulators that are from the same region as a company that they're looking at their deal, they'd be more favorable. But that shouldn't matter either. What it should be looking at is the only thing you should look at in locale-wise is looking at where your consumers are and is it good for them? So exactly what you're saying. We've been over this, like, I think every Xbot has been over this. I don't know how many times. this
we have, but now it's being highlighted more than ever because it's in front of a court of law and the hard facts are coming out under oath. So I guess that a lot of the things that we've been preaching on about over the past 18 months, they're coming to light. Everything that we've said has basically been validated. So I guess that's why it's a bit more important now than ever. Unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's sort of in the next sort of thing that they sort of hit him up about was the bombshell email. And I'll just cut straight to the email. He said in the email, it's not an exclusivity play at all. They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like this. I've spent a fair amount of time with Phil Spencer, Bobby Kotick, fair amount of time. I'll come back to that over the past day, and I'm pretty sure we'll continue to see Call of Duty on PlayStation for many years to come. Deering replied, this is his old boss from SIE. I believe he was the head of the European division, and Jim Ryan was under him, I think around about 10 years ago. And this deal would cement Microsoft as a player in mobile games. It strikes me more as a King play than Call of Duty. Ryan didn't disagree. So, and in this deposition, he said a few times he didn't believe that this was about mobile at all. He wasn't, I'm not convinced. Sorry if my Jim Ryan sounds a little bit like Sean Connery, but Look, so when he said a fair amount of time, he cut that down. He sort of ducked and dodged a lot of this stuff, and it was really unconvincing. Sort of hard to listen to. You know when someone's lying, like plain face, bold face lying, and you could tell like the dude was ducking and dodging and weaving. So he said he spent about 10 to 15 minutes, like speaking to Phil and Bobby. That doesn't sound like I've spent a fair amount of time. Like that's if I've spent 10 to 15 minutes with someone, I don't class that as a fair amount of time. Garuda,
you're barely scratching. You're barely even scratching through the formalities, are you? In 15 minutes, I mean, especially when you're speaking on something of the scale of a $68 billion deal. I mean, come on, 15 minutes. You haven't even touched on anything important yet. But what it really does, again, even if you were to take him at his word here, these are the facts here, the emails from Deering and Ryan. It's another contradiction. There's a theme here, isn't there? Because this speaks completely in opposite to what Jim Ryan's public concerns were of Xbox taking Call of Duty away from the PlayStation platform or compromising it in some way, when clearly he never thought it was going to happen. He never thought that Call of Duty would be taken away from PlayStation to begin with. So he's just being caught lying. So surely all of this is breaking down his credibility to the point where it would have to weigh heavily in the judge's decision-making process to know that this guy couldn't lie straight in bed. Do you know what I mean? So it's another contradiction, brother. You know, it's in direct contradiction to what his main concern was for why he wanted the deal blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there in black and white. So he was never concerned about this. He just doesn't want the deal to go through.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
And look, it's constant too. Like it's not something that he's made a couple of slip-ups or he said something in the past. And no. these aren't far in the past. Like it's interesting that you see the FTC on day 1 to bringing up emails from, say, Phil Spencer and Matt Booty from like 2019. You know, when Matt Booty said we just want to, fuck. I think it was fuck PlayStation or whatever it was. Or no, fuck Nvidia. We're not putting our games on their on their like that's emails from way back and things change on the way through, whereas Jim will like say something the day before and the next day do something completely different, and we've seen it like many times, and this is just another example of Jim basically being a lying piece of shit. Not to put too fine a point on it.
Well,
and here's
call it like it is, brother.
Here's another interesting one when he was talking about Game Pass. So we're looking at notes from a meeting with Fidelity investors in 2022. Jim Ryan discussed the importance of first-party content to fend off competition from Game Pass. One of the reasons why we're investing so massively in first-party development publishing is to provide us with an edge against pressure on a historic business model. Having a business model where you own elements from top to bottom increases your ability to be self-determinant. Microsoft lawyer. Do you think it would be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation? Yes, I do. Ryan. Yes, I do. Microsoft lawyer. So you believe it's in Microsoft's best interest to make Activision games multi-platform? Ryan. No, I don't agree with that. Microsoft lawyer. So if you were running Xbox, would you recommend making Call of Duty and other Activision games exclusive to Xbox and PC? It's a hypothetical question I don't wish to answer. Microsoft lawyer. So and that's not exactly what they said either. She said to him, "You don't get to not answer." And then he said, "I don't have enough knowledge to answer that question." Bullshit. If he had Activision Blizzard, those games would be exclusive. Like the minute the ink was dry on the fucking paper. Like,
and everyone knows that. And that's proven by, you only need to take one look at his own business model, right? He does that. That's how PlayStation runs their business. Okay. So this is just a blatant lie. Okay. And that second last line where it says Microsoft lawyer, so you don't get to answer. What did she actually say? She said, no, you don't get to not answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he's backed into a corner now. So he turns around and says, I don't have enough knowledge to answer that question. That's basically just, sorry, you've backed yourself into a corner. He's got nowhere to go. He doesn't know what to say because he's been caught out. Again, he contradicts himself right there. Look at this. There's a theme here in everything Jim Ryan does, and it's contradiction. So do you think it'd be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation? I do. But then, do you believe it's in Microsoft's best interest to make Activision games available on all platforms? Sorry, if you were running Xbox, would you make it exclusive? But so you've basically just in the same topic shot yourself in both feet and in your D. Like, you know what I mean? This is how Jim Ryan operates. You know, he's a good money man. But he doesn't care. He'd steal his mother's last dollar to make a dollar for the company.
Well, here's the thing.
You know?
Here's the thing, though, right? It's a very ex-body thing to say. But here's the thing, right? is he couldn't not walk into that corner. Like there was no way he was getting out of that. That line of questioning was extremely clever from the Microsoft lawyer because I mean, what's he going to say? Like he's obviously trying to pitch the idea that it's good for the platform if games go exclusive, right? So that's the idea he's got to pitch to make the judge believe that Call of Duty could possibly be taken exclusive. So she walked him into that line of questioning and then said, would you do the same thing? Because you said,
I don't have the data.
Like, then if he doesn't have the data, right, to fucking make that call for his own company, then how can he make that call as an expert witness for another company? Like, honestly, I was like, I think it was 1 a.m. and I was literally giggling in bed, like sort of kicking my legs.
I couldn't, even when you were reading it out, even though I've read that many times over the day, I can't keep a straight face. I can't. It's hilarious. This is the best viewing, the best entertainment. I can't keep a straight face with that guy, man. This is hilarious.
Fans behave the way that they do when the CEO of the company that they obviously worship. This is I'm sorry to say, this is going to be some swearing in this episode. This is the shit that comes out of his mouth. Like he fucking unbelievable. So the next one that
he's being backed into a corner, man. Like
yeah. So the next one that we sort of went to was Game Pass. He said, this is Jim Ryan. He said, I've talked to all the publishers. He's talked to all of them, and they unanimously. All of them do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive.
Well, all right, let's stop there. That's already factually incorrect. Look at all the multitude of publishers, especially some of the indie guys and the smaller publishers and developers who have said that Game Pass has done wonders for them just through the simple fact that the engagement is unbelievable, unprecedented. They would have gotten that engagement if not for Game Pass. And look, let's be honest. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy with Eidos Montreal's game. It pretty much was a flop at launch, but it gained a massive, player base and a lot of support and a lot of critical recognition after it released on Game Pass. So already he's just full of shit. Full of shit.
He absolutely is. I don't think there's any way that you can sort of pitch it. He's definitely completely full of shit. Before we move on to any more of the article, guys, this is just a bit of an impromptu stream. I sort of didn't plan it out very well. I just sort of hit up Garuda and said, hey, do you want to talk about this FTC stuff? And he was down. So we sort of teed it up for tonight. And here we are. So if you're liking it, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I usually go live with a podcast called Xbox Infinite every Friday at 8 p.m. EST. And we'll move on to the next line of shit that came out of right now. So what? Oh, I'm going to bring that back up on screen. Sorry, I'm trying out a whole bunch of new stuff today as well. So I'm a little bit messing with some things. So it may not be perfect, but you You guys will love it anyway, or you won't. Either way. Ryan says publishers don't like Game Pass. We did that one already. I wonder what the next one is. Xbox beat Sony. Yeah, we know that they beat Sony's sales for like 3 months, but I don't think that was a like a big deal. That was to do with the chip shortage. So I mean, I don't think you can even count that.
Nah.
I think they were just establishing. They were just establishing that was the reason why, so they couldn't sort of bring it up. There was a little bit of that. You know, them sort of establishing for today's one, because there will be another one today if you're in America, tonight if you're in Australia. They should be kicking off in about an hour, so we won't be going for much longer than maybe another half an hour, 40 minutes. Get my cup of tea, get my giggling cap on, because I did a lot of that. So after Ryan's deposition, and look, there was a lot more, and if you can get in, I recommend you jump in and check it out. But they brought in, and this is really interesting, I don't like to call this guy an expert because I don't see that anything that he did was very expert. I don't even know if he read the fucking documents, to be honest. Like, he didn't look at telemetry. Like, he literally did not look at the telemetry of how many players played Call of Duty, how long they played it for, and the whole a major part of the FTC's argument is about Call of Duty and how important it is. Would you think that fucking telemetry is probably an important part of that? Like, maybe you should check that out. But anyway, so what I'm sort of rambling on about, talking about Lee.
This one's another laughable one, you know.
The whole thing.
I feel like some of their witnesses and spokespeople on behalf of the FTC and Sony, it feels like they're going in. They're on Microsoft's side, you know, because these guys are doing absolutely nothing to push their case for the block. They're actually speaking in favor of Microsoft when the facts come to light. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, these people, have they done any research? Have they done any preparation for this case? Have they even done their due diligence? I just don't think they have. I just think that this is just incompetence at every level. It just seems so amateur. It's amateur hour out there, you know?
Yeah, 110%, man. And on that, look, while they were deposing Ryan, and they were cutting backwards and forwards between the two lawyers, between the FTC and Microsoft, and sometimes the cut was abrupt because they have removed parts of the deposition that have sensitive information in it. But I was in a group chat whilst listening to it, and obviously the group chat was going off and they were finding it hilarious, but it was so bad, exactly what you said, it was so bad, we weren't sure which lawyer was which at some points. It's like, oh, the Microsoft lawyer just got, hang on a minute, that's the FTC's lawyer. So
they're
it's
all
like
Microsoft's lawyers, you know.
they're throwing themselves under the bus at every turn. It's crazy. It's nuts. But this guy is like out of control. Like, him and Ryan have probably had the same lessons. They've been ducking and dodging like you wouldn't believe. So questions over Dr. Lee's report. Microsoft lawyers Beth Wilkinson asked Dr. Robin Lee about the quantitative. So when you do an investigation on something, you do it in quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is when you're talking about numbers. So that's numbers, hard facts that you can put together. Qualitative is stuff that's like hearsay, witness testimonies, all that sort of stuff. So there's two separate things. So if you can think of quantitative like it's mathematical, and qualitative more like it's witness statements, and that's that sort of thing. It's a little bit part of what I do on my job. So he said on average, Call of Duty titles during Generation 8, he's using the fucking previous generation like, as a benchmark. And things are very, very different now, and the tech's very, very different. Everything, the landscape of gaming has changed completely. So anyway, that's just number one. Xbox's share would increase by 8.9% if Xbox was to get Call of Duty exclusively. They didn't stipulate this even in the conversation, which I thought was a little bit poor on the Microsoft's part, and pressing him as well. So they didn't stipulate whether Call of Duty would be in Game Pass, but I think that was assumed. I think that's sort of what he was saying. Like, if they get it exclusive. Oh, sorry. No. They said exclusive. My bad. So yeah, if they got it exclusive, so 8.9% would still put them at what? They'd lose 8.9% of what have they got? 100 million MUAs?
They got a massive lead. Put it that way. It's not even a grain of sand on the beach. Like
they're still firmly in first place, right?
Yeah, easily.
So, well, that's kind of the point. They would still be firmly.
That's based on Call of Duty being exclusive, not just Call of Duty being on Game Pass. So, I believe that's based on Call of Duty being exclusive to Xbox and PC. I think. Yeah, if it was exclusive. So that's if it was exclusive, which it won't be. So you can change that percentage again because it's not going to be exclusive. So, I mean,
no, exactly.
Again, it's just
exactly okay. But like, where does he get 8.9% from?
Oh, I have no idea. What's the metric that he's getting it from? I have no idea. They don't specify.
No, they don't. And there was graphs up on the board, but apparently he said quantitative, right? So that would be from numbers, and he was basing it on numbers from Generation 8. But what numbers? And it could actually be accurate, but 8.9% is a piss drop in the ocean. Like it's a tiny amount. It would probably still equate to hundreds of thousands of users, but it's not.
Right, but they're saying Xbox's share would increase by 8.9%. But that's if it was exclusive, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not going to be exclusive. It's only going to be on Game Pass. So one could naturally assume that the percentage of increase of Xbox's share would be far less than that anyway, because it's not going to be exclusive, right? We've already determined that it's not going to be exclusive. It's going to be on Game Pass. It's still going to launch day and date on PlayStation. So, all right, let's cut that in half again. It's probably only about 3 or 4% of Xbox share. Really? Because we're not talking about exclusivity here.
But if you look at this as well, though, if we're not talking about exclusivity, like what kind of a number? I don't think it would. I think. Well, look, 8% is probably not a terrible number to sort of just fire off in the dark, right? Say 5%. Let's say it's not exclusive, but it's on Game Pass day one. What do you think sort of moves over to? But again, right? This is the argument, like. It's the thing that I just do not get. Geek, thanks for the $5 super chat. He says FTC has no more witnesses. That was their case. That was just bad. The FTC's witnesses killed their case, and the CMA's too. Can't wait for Kotick. That's true. But here's the thing: what they're sitting there arguing, what I've seen them argue, is harm to PlayStation. That's what I've seen them argue, and that's that quantitative bullshit argument that they had. That's harm to PlayStation. And then it seems like they're trying to create a world in which harm to PlayStation means harm to consumers because of the player base. I was thinking about this today. There's the only way that you can like have that aha moment because they've been arguing towards something and it seems to be arguing towards PlayStation, right? And the only way to have that aha moment is to try to convince the judge that because the majority of consumers are with PlayStation, which is true, the majority of consumers are with PlayStation, and that this hurts PlayStation, ergo, this hurts the majority of consumers. But that's fucking stupid if you're a regulator because you're supposed to create competition in a market, have a competitive market, not a market whereby a market leader can do whatever the fuck it wants to its consumers because it has the majority of them. Like, I just...
Right. That's the whole point of encouraging and facilitating competition. You put pressure on your biggest competitor to meet you somewhere to offer a similar service that will keep your player base happy, and they might actually be better off in the end. This is the whole point. This deal going through is, we all know this, but it's only going to put so much pressure on Sony. They might actually start, helping their player base out a little bit. Like, look at that. Look at their subscription service. It's a disgrace. There's no day one games. They don't even put their own games in there. It's expensive as hell. You can't get refunds on their digital games. There's all these things that are just so anti-consumer, and that's because of the lack of competition and the free reign that they've had in the market for so long. So why are these regulators who are supposed to be regulating competition and looking out for consumers' best interests, supporting and backing the market leader, like fighting tooth and nail for him? It's bizarre.
It is bizarre.
You can't tell me that there's not more going on behind the scenes. The FTC and the CMA and these regulatory bodies, they can't be this ignorant. That as a body of people, they can't be that stupid. They can't be that dumb. Yeah, okay. There's a hell of a lot more going on behind the scenes. They're not idiots, right?
That was a conversation that I think
they've got an agenda.
That was a conversation that I think Huggeat and Zorka were talking about on RDX today. So shout out to Huggeat, shout out to Zorka. But are they just rolling up doing the bare minimum of their job because Lena's like,
they are.
We've got to litigate this, whatever. But there was something else that you said as well that I want to sort of come back to, right? And I was thinking about this today. Had a lot of deep thoughts today, hence the stream. But what I call them deep, they're probably like super shallow. But look, one of the thoughts I was having is like what Sony does, which is money hack third-party games, like Final Fantasy 16. I think when it comes to that pretty soon, Final Fantasy 16 games of that like, right? They money hack those games, spend, I would imagine, millions of dollars doing so. And then they pay to keep games off Game Pass as well, right? So that's an added cost as well. And I would say that would run into the millions. That's going to have less of an effect when Xbox starts putting out a cadence of first party. And if they get ABK and they really start to bring over more of the market share, because I believe they will, it may not be significant at first. It may end up being significant at the end of the generation, but there's no world in which it's significant in a year. Even 2, maybe 3, and they've sort of picked up and maybe caught up a little bit, right? But there's a point at which it's no longer worth it for PlayStation to continue to try to money hat these third-party things. As well, you continue to piss off what was the sleeping giant by doing so. So this becomes like an untenable business practice for Sony eventually, right? Maybe not in the near future, but eventually, right? So what you've then forced them to do is they're going to have to put that money somewhere else into another strategy. Where do you think they're going to put it? I really think that they should put it into PS Plus. That gives them millions of dollars to fuck around with PS Plus. And it may run into the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're spending on this if they took some of that money that they were money hatting and even started to put day and date games in a third party, from AA or indie developers. They could start to build that service and provide value for that service. I was thinking about this today. This is just one benefit that this deal may actually bring. And I do think about this deal from that perspective. A lot of people think about this deal from like, give me my fucking games in Game Pass. And I know that I know Infinite, I know you do, and I know that Infinite Umbra does as well. I do think about the industry as a whole because I want gaming to be strong in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I don't think I'll make it past 30 years. So whatever happens after that, I don't give a fuck. But that's what I want, right? So I do think about it from that perspective. And I do hope the deal goes through and that they put pressure on PlayStation to start being more consumer friendly. And I know a lot of people don't like that term, but start doing things for their consumers because their consumers are fucking like die hard, man. They sort of owe them. They are where they are because of those consumers, and I don't think
they've facilitated. They've built the fan base in a certain way, and they've created this monster. I want to say this multi-hooved monster, but they're die hard. They're like Coke fans. They're like Apple fans. They're gonna eat whatever they shit out, right? And that's really good for Sony. But if they just keep crapping on them like they are, right, eventually, slowly but surely, they will wear them down. And I do agree that they've got to do something about that PS Plus subscription service. They've certainly got to make it a more attractive proposition somehow in some way, because in my opinion, it's pathetic. So if you buy those, if you're a new consumer coming into the PlayStation platform for the first time, I can see the value in it. Mm-hmm. But as someone who potentially, for example, you don't play a lot of online games, or you are someone who's a diehard hooved brother who buys all those day one $60, $70 games, you've played them all by the time they hit the service, right? So there's no value really for those people either. So they're just, it isn't doing anything. As I don't have it. I've got a PlayStation 5 sitting there. It's for sale. No one wants it. But, look, I haven't got PS Plus because I just do not see any value in it whatsoever.
No, I mean,
do something about that.
And they tie up cloud saves in it. And I got an email today. I posted it on Twitter. It's like, you lose all these benefits like fucking cloud saves. I'm like, I didn't lose. That shouldn't even be in there. Like,
That's a joke.
There's nothing in that for me. I've played all the games, so until something new comes into it. I mean, look at Game Pass when you talk about AAA games. What was it? Need for Speed Unbound just hit Game Pass today. So there's always value coming into Game Pass. If even on a slow year like last year, right? 2022, right? Everyone talks about, Microsoft had no first party, Game Pass sucked. It really didn't suck. If you have a look what was in there day one, there were tons of good games in there. And that was on a slow year. That was on a down year, right? Yeah.
You get into a year like we have this year, and it's just undeniable. Those two services side by side are chalk and cheese.
Yeah. I mean, Starfield's hit. Now, I've got a super chat from Jax Jax82 with the 199 super chat. He said, if Phil and Jim agree on terms, are we even here? Yes, I believe we are. I don't think it's. I think Jim fed into the FTC and tried to feed him into the CMA because he could see the way the winds was blowing, which is smart. Like if you're a competitor and you've got an advantage and it looked like you had an advantage, you're going to use it. But ultimately, this is the CMA and the FTC. And their sort of political standing. So I still think we're here. I just don't think that they've got as much cooperation had they agreed. Their case would be weaker. I still think they'd be litigating it. And P-Rod Dusa, ignore Dauntless Dragon, dude. He plays on Xbox more than he's ever played on PlayStation, and the guy doesn't even own a PS5. So there's no point having a discussion with him. He's really has no clue. So moving on to the next, to exclusive.
Hold up, and he's got cataracts from his 720p too.
To exclusive or not too exclusive, that is a question. Microsoft has its own models for Activision games and analysis about keeping games exclusive. Nobody at Microsoft recommended withholding Activision games, says Microsoft's lawyer. And Dr. Lee responds with, my understanding is that for consoles, Microsoft recommended not exclusive, but for subscription services, they recommended exclusivity. And Microsoft's lawyer was quick to point out that Dr. Lee doesn't have a model for subscription services. So he's pointing to exclusivity for subscription services would be bad for PlayStation, but he hasn't modeled it in any sort of full closure. I don't know what you can say about that, but we sort of just had that conversation with if COD did hit the subscription service.
It's going to be bad for PlayStation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's got to be a percentage of smart PlayStation gamers that are like, all right, I'm going to buy into that system because that's $70, or if you're in Australia, $130, $40, depending on the edition that you don't have to pay.
Not for me.
Yeah, not for you, but it will be for you when it hits Game Pass day one. COD, not for you.
No, I'll be playing it if it's in Game Pass, but I do not buy them. Generally, I don't play them online in any sort of multiplayer fashion at all because simply that I'll just get hammered. But I do like the campaigns, but I'm not paying $130 for a 6-hour game. But when it's on Game Pass, hell yeah, I'm there, you know?
Oh, we could have that argument though, right? Because it's not a 6-hour game, it's multiplayer, right?
Yeah, but like I say, I don't play it, so that's why I won't buy it.
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm not into the multiplayer side of COD. So when it comes to Game Pass, that's awesome for me because I'm getting value now. I only want to play that short, big blockbuster campaign and then I'm done. I'm out, So for me, it's amazing. I'll go back and play all the CODs, the whole, when that Call of Duty back catalog hits Game Pass, just that one alone, the whole back catalog, when it's all there, man, you are going to see the biggest meltdowns from the stable's going to be on fire. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, man.
I've said someone just said, is that how Joanna Dark looks in the game? I certainly hope so. So the CMA survey gets a mention. So Microsoft lawyer has now introduced the UK Competition Markets Authority analysis of Call of Duty being an Xbox exclusive. CMA had originally provisionally concluded that Microsoft's strategy to withhold Call of Duty from PlayStation would be profitable. So very basically, they went through how it wouldn't be profitable for Xbox. I don't really buy into that.
No, I don't either. It would be profitable. It just depends.
Oh,
of course, the profit margin would be a lot lower than if they had have made it.
You've turned into a robot.
But it would. Oh.
It's literally making robot noises. Give us 2 seconds. and I shall. Try that now.
Yo, am I back?
No, you might have to jump. You might have to. Yeah, something's going on with your mic. Is it your mic cord?
No, man, it should be good.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. We are the robots. What about now? How'd you go?
I've lost everything now.
Oh, you've literally gone completely muted. Look, I'll sort of kick on with the conversation. I don't think that's I don't particularly think that it wouldn't be profitable or work for Xbox to put Call of Duty or to make Call of Duty exclusive. Oh, he sounds fine. Apparently you sound fine. Audio good here. That is really odd. And I've got no audio from you at all. Mute, unmute.
Yeah, how about now, bro?
I think I got you back.
I'm just jumping back in. Yeah.
We are having audio issues.
Now there's... Wow. Now there's two of me.
It could just be me.
Hold up. No, I've found the problem. How's that?
Let me just flick a couple of settings. I think I got you back. I got you back. I definitely have you back. Yeah. Absolutely. No. This is just this new program. I'll just try again. Apologies, guys. We're just trying out something new. So we'll sort of see how it goes. So far, average. There he is. He's back again. Rock and roll.
We're doing our best, Jimbos.
Yeah. So I was just saying, look, I don't particularly believe that it wouldn't be worth making COD exclusive to Xbox. I don't believe that shit. I think it would be well worth it to Microsoft. I think you'd be hard pressed to prove that it wouldn't be. Yeah, I think that's a lot of shit.
I think so too, but it really depends what Microsoft's long-term plans are with the Xbox ecosystem, and I mean that in the way that is console a true priority for Xbox? And I know this is a big can of worms to open, but if the Xbox consoles, I'm not talking about the cloud or the PC side of it or the mobile side of it, but if Xbox consoles and the growing of that console player base was the biggest priority, then yes, I believe that having Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox or a console exclusive to Xbox would be massively beneficial because you're pumping those consoles. That's what, if you want that to grow and you have that exclusive, it's going to grow. But on the flip side, if the consoles aren't, and I feel like some of the messaging lately, I feel like consoles aren't really the big, they don't feel like to me like it's the big focus from Xbox, then leaving Call of Duty, you'd be leaving money on the table by not having it on PlayStation, right? So I just think that they're not in the console race as such with PlayStation. So that being the case, there's no point taking it away from PlayStation. You're just leaving too much money on the table. I really do think that if they were trying to grow the amount of Xbox consoles that are out there in the wild, that, yeah, make it exclusive, but they're not. So,
yeah, but I mean, again, when you're talking about it from a legal standpoint, and Mav, absolutely what Mav said in the chat is Xbox and Mike said I'm running the stream on an overheating PS5. Yeah, I'm just trying out some new things, and not all of them are going well, but like, I hope you guys are enjoying it anyway. Yeah, Mav was saying that Phil said under oath. Absolutely, I said that. So like that should just be wiped as an argument. Once you've got that under oath, then yeah, like no worries. But
yeah, nothing else to say.
There's nothing else to say. He said it, and it was reiterated by the judge. Hey, you know, you know you're under oath, blah, 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 blah. Are you saying that COD will be a multi-plat? Yes, cool, no worries. However, like actually arguing the merits of making COD exclusive and the benefits against and for is actually it's really easy to make a case for it to be multi-plat, which they have done. So they've got the foot forward on that one, absolutely. But then it's really hard to show from a quantitative standpoint that the benefits of making it exclusive. It's hard to show a quantitative standpoint the benefits of making any game exclusive, because it's their metrics that are like what's the word I'm looking for? There's way too many variables that would go into that equation. It's really, really hard to do. So it'd be really, really hard to prove. So I'm sort of glad that Microsoft's on the end of like proving that it's not worth them going exclusive. That's easier to prove than I think it is easier to prove the merits of going exclusive. But
they're not in a console race. They've said it themselves in other ways, in other terms. They're not in a console race with Sony PlayStation. Xbox doesn't see it that way. I believe if they did see it that way, then there would be much bigger incentive and much greater drive to have it exclusive to Xbox. But they're not in that race. They're just not. They can't. Number one, they can't win that race because of the massive market lead that PlayStation has. And number two, they're playing a bigger game. They're playing a much bigger game than a plastic box war here. Jim knows that. Everyone knows that. So it is hard. It is hard to quantify the profit margins and of keeping it exclusive. Definitely, it's not going to be exclusive anyway. He's already said under oath that it's not going to be exclusive. So I don't know whether we need to go any further with it.
Yeah, well, that's true. And then I guess we do have that email from King. But again, like it's just a bit of an interesting sort of back and forth. And they do approach exclusives later on. So the next one was they came back with Dr. Lee after a break. He said, in my analysis, I only look at agreements that have been signed, says Dr. Lee. And Microsoft's lawyer points out that there are agreements that have been signed between Microsoft and competitors. Microsoft's lawyer is also keen to point out the agreement for Final Fantasy 16 exclusivity. A Microsoft lawyer. It's one of the things that Sony could do is take a game that was on multiple platforms and pay to have it only on PlayStation, right? Dr. Lee said, that is my understanding. Do you have a particular example? Microsoft lawyer said, do you know the game Final Fantasy 16? That was a really stupid question, especially since Final Fantasy 16 just came out and sold 3 million copies. Dr. Lee said, I've heard of that game. That's right. Yeah. I wonder if Microsoft lawyer, do you know on Xbox and PS5? Dr. Lee, I don't know what console that was released on. After this exchange, Dr. Lee is asked whether exclusive games are harmful to competition, and Dr. Lee admits that exclusivity can have both pro and anti-competitive effects. I personally believe that exclusivity is bad for fucking consumers, but it's a necessary evil that you have to have. You need to have a point of difference for your console.
You do. It's like in any form of business, or if you're trying to sell something and you want to look better than the other guy, you've got to differentiate yourself. You've got to have that allure that somebody else doesn't have at the end of the day. You've got to have that bit of something exotic that, just might catch someone's eye. Something that no one else can give, right? That's it. In soft drinks, Coke has Coke and Pepsi are both cola, but they have a slightly different flavor, like stuff like that, man. Like exclusivity is a necessary evil, but it isn't good for consumers. And to a certain extent, the Xbox ecosystem is breaking down the walls of exclusivity to a certain degree with all the different platforms that you can access the one ecosystem on. So,
well, it's
a funny one, that one.
Yeah, it is. They are doing that, but it's sort of exclusive accessibility. That makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
You can access it, but it's our way. But I guess the doors they're opening are you can use it on multiple devices. Where once upon a time you were locked on this one plastic box. So in a way, it's getting a lot better, but exclusivity will never go away, or otherwise, what's going to differentiate? What's the point? So
Yeah.
It's there to stay, man.
Yeah, and again, there is, and I think I've had this conversation with Hargate in the past. Like there is benefits, as Pete Hines pointed out. Like it's much easier to develop for a single platform, or a couple of platforms, as opposed to throwing an extra one in the mix that has a different ecosystem. The next one was, will Call of Duty be removed from PlayStation? I don't want to go through this because I think it's been made very fucking clear by this point that we are not removing. They're not going to be removing COD from.
Phil said it under oath, so it's in stone now, legally obliged to do such, isn't it? So
not only that, he said it under oath. He said it in interviews. He said it on.
It's written in contracts on black and white. It's signed. It's
like this is just. It's just out of control that we're fucking still. The FTC is still arguing this. This is.
I don't know. I guess they could. They could release next year's Call of Duty and call it something else, like Call of Booty. I don't know, and then say, hey, it's not Call of Duty. It's exclusive to Xbox. But I still don't think they could do that. I mean, yeah, it's a can of worms you could open and dive deep into, but. I mean, I guess they could just change a few things up a little bit and say this is not COD, but I really don't think they're going to do that. That's not the game they're playing. They're not going to destroy the Call of Duty brand when it's so financially lucrative. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My webinar just jumped across the screen. Look, we are going to wrap pretty soon, I'm going to say, because we're getting pretty close to that, the FTC kicking off again. And that's going to be very, very interesting. These next couple of days, just about every single witness has already been called to the stand. So what we're going to start seeing is these lawyers wrapping up. They're like bringing their cases to their arguments to conclusion. So that if there isn't a gotcha from the FTC, I really don't think there's going to be. If there is one, though, we're going to see it, the next couple of days. So today's going to be really interesting. So I am keeping an eye on that clock, I got to tell you. But this one's the next one that's really, really interesting as well. Partial foreclosure harm and price increase potential. The FTC's lawyer wants to know more about partial foreclosure and affecting competition. So the FTC's lawyer asked, this is where you start to look at it and go, whose lawyer is this? Is this because you're not helping your case? Yeah. The FTC, can partial foreclosure harm consumers? Dr. Lee, like exclusivity. I don't even know why he threw that in there, but he did.
It's like the Microsoft guys slipped the FTC lawyers a little bag on the way through the door. Like that's the way it sounds when you're listening to their case, man.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So Dr. Lee said, like exclusivity, it can be both pro and anti-competitive. And the FTC said, do you think that partial foreclosure can affect competition? Dr. Lee said, yes. Judge Corley, the Xbox Series S pricing is closer to the Switch. Does it compete with the Switch? Dr. Lee, there's the Series X, the PS5, and the Series S is still in that market. So if you're thinking about price increase in the Series X, the customers who buy the X console, they are more likely to switch to the PlayStation 5 or to a Switch. So does this decide the market definition, evaluate a price increase on any of the products in the market? Dr. Lee argues that he models and provides evidence that around 10 to 15% of folk who leave an Xbox would go to PlayStation or vice versa, and that a hypothetical monopolist would find a 5% price increase likely profitable. We've already had the console price increases, and I think that this is why we had them. Personally, I think it's this and Starfield, and that's the reasons why. But his argument about partial foreclosure can affect competition, and it can be both pro consumer and pro competitive and anti-competitive. Like, what? That's not even a fucking answer. Like, I mean, it's not, right? So in this case, this is what you would be answering, right? If I was the dude sitting on the stand, I would say, yes, it can be both, and then I would follow up with, but in this case, I believe that it's anti-competitive, but he didn't even say that. This dude has sort of fucking solidified, and excuse the swearing guys in the chat, it's going to be a bit of it because I'm a little bit incredulous about all this. I just cannot believe that this guy is solidifying just about every time he's pulled up on something, solidifying Microsoft's case. And in this case as well, now that he's pointed that out, this is a case that's quite clearly that partial foreclosure of Sony would create competition, because Sony would be like, oh shit, we just lost a good chunk of our business. What are we going to do to get those consumers back? Okay, we might put some money into PS Plus, or we might...
Yeah, we might fight them. We might actually do something nice for them for a change. I mean, I'm not in their ecosystem really anymore because I'm not seeing any value there. And I'm very frugal with, with my consumerism. I don't feel like I'm getting any value. I feel like I'm getting screwed every single time I spend $1 with them. Every time I want something, it's all just on horrible terms compared to the opposition, right? Being the Xbox ecosystem. It's just, come on, do something for your rabid hooved stable dwelling fans. Come on, do something for them. They're starving out here. Come on.
Oh, look, it's true, man. I'm not talking about the whole of it. I'm sure that the entirety of the Sony player base, I mean, it's a lot of people, is not as rabid as some of the people that we see on Twitter. But those guys partition and what's the word for it? I don't want to say cap. They campaign for this company's price rises and anti-competitive moves like it's a pro-consumer action. It's been unbelievable.
That's exactly the kind of fan base, though, that you as a business who's in the business of making money wants to cultivate.
Yeah.
That's what you want to cultivate. They have a very highly sought after fan base that only a few organizations in the world can say they have, and that would be probably Apple, Coca-Cola, Sony PlayStation. There's very few that have those rabid, die-hard, eat anything we shit out fan base, and Sony PlayStation fans are one of those. They're one of those. And
did you just say Apple as well?
Crapple. Well, yeah. Apple PlayStation 6.
Yeah. All right. I'm booting you right now. No.
Apple PlayStation 6. That's going to be the Apple PlayStation 6. King's going to be right. There's not going to be a Sony PlayStation 6, but there will be an Apple PlayStation 6. Calling it.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to throw my dick on the table for that one. I'm going to keep that one. Ooh. I'll keep that one in the back rooms, in the green rooms. Will Microsoft block Activision content on Arrival Cloud and subscription services? I won't read all this out. But whatever Hargate with the $5 super chat says, partial foreclosure of COD. You mean like what Sony does now? The whole thing is so dumb. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Exactly what PlayStation, all of the shit that PlayStation does. And I did love...
Contradictions.
Yeah. I did love Jim getting backed into a corner, man. That was absolutely brilliant. I managed to stay awake for that whole thing. And I was like, oh my God. Even the FTC's lawyer was backing him into a corner. And I don't think they meant to. I think they'll get the answers that they were hoping that they would get, because he's now in cover ass mode, right? The shit that he said in the back rooms to them is very likely not going to be the same that we hear in a court of law. So yeah.
Can you imagine when Bobby Kotick gets up there? That's going to be fireworks, because man, he's the slimiest, sleaziest piece of crap you've ever seen. No one's managed to get their hands on him yet. He can weasel his way out of the jaws of death. This dude. He's going to put some spin on these guys. Let you watch. They are not going to touch a finger on that boy.
That's the thing with Bobby.
He is a weasel.
Anyway, this goes at this point, he is coming out smelling like roses. Absolute roses.
He's the real winner. That piece of shit is the real winner out of all of this, man.
Yeah. He's
but when
he's made either way. He's made whether it goes through, and he's made if it doesn't go through. But yeah, I mean, look, are they going to block it on Rival Cloud content subscription services? Yeah, no, they've made it very fucking clear that they're not going to, right? But when it comes to PlayStation's cloud service, you better believe, of course, they're going to do it, unless PlayStation starts coming to the table. But after this, if PlayStation does not come to the table, and I think if they do come to the table, it'll be really late, like the 11th hour. And if I was Microsoft, I would tell them to fuck off. But that's just me. I don't know. What do you think? If say you're Microsoft, and look, we've seen, and this is the thing. I've had these arguments with people over the years on Twitter and roundabout, and they're all really nice at Microsoft. They're too nice to run a business. And now we've had a little look into the back rooms and what goes on. Like Matt Booty's like, fuck them. Like that's. I mean, and when you read Phil's email, he's extremely professional. But it's not all happiness. He's like, there was what we like to call in the business microaggressiveness when he was talking to the girl about we often don't align let me explain this to you so that we can align on this issue. That's microaggressive. That's like, get on board with what I'm saying, or we're going to have a problem. That's you know what I mean? Like, he might be a really nice guy and the cat, because he has to be. That's his persona. And he probably is a really nice guy. But when it comes to business, he didn't make it all the way to the top of Xbox from being a what was he, like a post? Did the post in the building or whatever? He was a
I'm not sure.
He started at the bottom. I can't remember.
Yeah, really.
I can't remember what the Americans call it, but he's like a post room boy.
Who's this booty?
No, Phil Spencer.
Phil. Yeah, he's been there for a long time. I don't know if he came through in an entry level position or not, but I know he's been there for.
Oh no, he started at the bottom. He was like a mail room like dude. Oh, that's what he was like.
Wow, that's awesome.
Doing like basically odd jobs.
I guess that's where a lot of his humility and his probably nice guy persona would come from. You know, he remembers his roots, and that's visible every time, the way he carries himself, the way he holds himself, every time he opens his mouth, I guess. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
And he's a gamer, right? And that's
he's a proper gamer, man. But yeah, going back to just quickly about probably some of the discourse around the Microsoft and Xbox management not being sort of quote unquote ruthless enough over the years. I think it's all come to light that they are in fact shrewd, ruthless businessmen. And I guess when you look at things realistically, you don't sort of attain a position like those guys hold in one of the richest companies in the world unless you had some sort of fight, some sort of desire, and some of that ruthless streak in you, because you need that. It's business. It's big business. You need that. It's just that their forward-facing public image has to align with the old what is it, big tech bad. They have to be very, very mindful of that, and I think that they have to come across as the nice guy because they do carry the biggest stick, that biggest bag, man, you know. And so that always that with that big bag comes big tech bad. You know what I mean? So they have to come across nice, I guess. But it is good and heartening for me as an Xbox fan to see that look, these guys don't play. They are wielding that big stick. They're just not doing it in the public eye, you know?
Yeah, and that's also what I would consider to be smart. You keep your dirty laundry in the laundry. You don't bring it out. And that's so, I mean, obviously, all the tea gets spilt when you have a court case like this. But for the most part, we don't get to see this sort of stuff. And big litigations like this are the only reason that we're seeing any of this. And, you know, there would probably still be Twitter firings of Matt Booty and Phil Spencer daily if it wasn't for all this. Look, there was a whole bunch of discussion about cloud within this FTC, but I'm going to skip over that because I think unless you're a complete and utter total moron, you have to assume that they've signed these contracts. They've got 10-year deals. They've got Nvidia. They've got Boosteroid. They've got whatever the other little ones they are that they signed on. Like, I don't think that they're trying to keep cloud off. I don't even know.
And cloud sucks anyway. Let's just call a spade a spade. Cloud sucks. It's not where it needs to be from a tech perspective to be any kind of real competitor or any kind of real alternative to a native gaming experience. It's just not there. People aren't adopting it. Look, the stats are out there now that Game Pass users don't even really use it. It can go and piss off for all I care. Honestly, it's not there yet. And will it ever be there? And by the time the tech is there, will it be obsolete? Probably. You know, I'm with who's a big proponent of this line of thought, Hargeet Chani. I'm in line with what he says. Just forget it.
Yeah,
forget it.
I don't think forget it. I think it's got a place, but I think it's what you would call supplemental, right? So it's something that we use as a supplement.
Be niche, in my opinion, because I think these new gadgets like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, and I know the entry point and the starting price for these things are a little bit out of reach for the average person, but they already are starting to render cloud obsolete in some ways because you can get such a better experience on a handheld device that you can take anywhere and play it natively. When the prices of these devices, and they will, start to come down and they're much more accessible, then you will see more people asking the question, what's the point of cloud? That's just what I think.
Yeah, look, I completely understand that, but so what I'm saying when it's supplemental, it's at the moment for us, it's supplemental. It's something that we can use, say Game Pass. Don't want to download it, want to check it out. That's a great use of cloud. You're playing cloud on your console. I don't like that it's behind a paywall, but it is what it is. I mean, if you want to use the benefits of the ecosystem, you have to be in the ecosystem, right? That's fair enough. But also, there's other benefits that they're working on that you've got to sort of, I think, understand that they're working on the background. So I think dropping cloud is a bad thing. You look at COD, for instance, right? When you play COD multiplayer, it streams in a lot of those textures. And that's done through the cloud.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, I'm fully on board with that. If you can enhance the core gaming experience with cloud computing, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
And it's more or less, that'll be a realization of what was sort of promised in the Xbox One era with the power of the cloud, are we going to see it? But I mean, I'm for that. But as in natively, not natively, but as in streaming a whole AAA game on a cloud internet base, nah, it's never going to be, especially where we live out here with the worst first world internet ever. It's never going to be a truly acceptable experience, at least not in the short term. And for me, it won't be an option until the internet infrastructure isn't going to match the cloud tech anyway. Look, that's my problem.
Look, at the end of the day, and Hargeet's completely right on this, and what you're saying is correct as well. Like, it's never going to match native, not in our lifetime. I don't see it ever matching native because the hardware is always going to be ahead of the cloud tech. So I don't ever see a world where they're sort of, at the moment one's and this one's sort of always going to be behind. Was that like a destined handcraft? I don't ever see. I don't ever see a world in which cloud catches up. But look, we'll jump on to the next topic because we've got about 15 minutes. I'll give it, say, 10 minutes so we cover as much as we absolutely can before this FTC thing's supposed to be starting. It started half an hour late yesterday, but we will see. I probably shouldn't have been messing around with that. Boom, here we are. So this is something that I sort of found really, when you look at this as a breakdown of the top console publishing revenue shares globally, this is global, which is relevant. Not as relevant as the American revenue shares would be, but Nintendo's at the top. I mean, but they're not even in the console market, so we gotta like take those ones out, right? So remove Nintendo, and then it's EA, Take-Two, Sony, right? Activision, Epic, Ubisoft, Xbox, Bandai Namco. Xbox is like 1.4% more than Bandai Namco. That's their revenue share. That's absolutely that's nuts. Like, why are we having this court case? Why that should be shown in court right now, and they should just
shut. That's why I said there's too many motives and agendas here that are clear to us, but they won't admit it. That there's a lot going on behind the scenes. No one's this stupid, right? That's what I say. These two huge regulatory bodies and all of the people contained within them are not that dumb. They're not idiots, right? They really aren't. They're unprepared in this case, but they're not stupid to think that they've got a good case here. But they've got an agenda. They've got a motive. They're not implementing the fight very well, but it's just obvious that there's a lot more to it.
It does just spin me out like, what is the fucking purpose of wasting all of the taxpayers' money to litigate?
I don't give a shit about that,
litigate a case, but then reputationally, like if you're Lina Khan, you've just lost how many fucking cases? The FTC hasn't won a vertical merger case in 30 fucking years. You've lost your last
her name
11.
Is absolutely mud. She looks so incompetent. Who's going to want to give her? Who's going to want to hire her after consistent failure after failure after failure? So for me. And this is, I'm going to wrap that tinfoil hat nice and tight around my head, but
there's going to be something else.
You are looking for what her motivation would be to be this consistently and self-aware stupid. Are you getting a bag under the table? Like, what are you getting? Is someone parking a Mercedes or a boat in your driveway? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? She's not an idiot.
Either that,
she's getting taken care of, man. Surely, like
either that, or
someone make it make sense to me.
Well, either that, or she's the most persistent social justice warrior, and she believes she's doing the right thing. And that's the most optimistic view that you could possibly put on that. but she would have to be.
That's very wholesome. that sounds lovely. It really does.
Yeah,
but
does.
I don't think
it's. I know. I'm not saying it's the thing, but I'm just saying from another perspective. But like, I don't think that's what's going on. I honestly I don't think she's. Calorie in the chat says she's an ideologue. I really. Maybe.
But she's in the wrong line of work if she's an ideologue.
But if you've lost 11 cases, right? Would you then go back to the drawing board? And this is the biggest case that comes across your desk, and you're looking. This is how you look. Like these. Do you know what would be hilarious though? And again, like a lot of people are counting their chickens before they hatch because some crazy shit happens in the American court system, and you never know. They might come out and be like, "Yep, no worries. Like we're blocking it." You never know.
Oh, yeah.
Never know.
I'm fully expecting the unexpected here.
You never know.
Just because, we've got this far in this debacle, this absolute circus, and a million different things we thought never should or could happen. I'm sure there's a few twists and turns left to come yet. But I just want to see them get annihilated. They're getting embarrassed. That's satisfying. But I just want to see the deal just finally go through. I want to see them crushed. I'll tell you what, I'm a very sort of passive. I sit back and watch the console wars stuff and have a little laugh and stuff, but I'm going to be unbearable when this goes through because I am going to be unbearable. I'm really going to get stuck into it. So
look, we do got to wrap it up. Yeah. We do got to wrap it up, but like just this whole thing, I do not see it going any other way than, and I know I just said like, hey, crazy things have happened, but I just do not see it going any other way. But I will add this. As Hogue said, you can't account for crazy. Exactly that. So I wouldn't count your chickens. I can't see it going any other way than this just getting thrown out. At least the injunction getting thrown out. But the gamers lawsuit, the same. I will leave everyone with this thought, and then I'll just do quick outros, and we'll get everyone out of here. I will leave you this thought. This same judge that's hearing this case, on the gamers case that they came through the PlayStation gamers case that they brought to court, that they brought back on appeal. She threw out half of that case and she's accepted half of it. So it is going to be litigated. So that's very interesting. And a lot of their points are very similar, albeit more well thought out than the fucking FTC's. But I mean, that's sort of a civil thing. So we'll see what happens with that. That's interesting. But same lawyer, same judge. So if she's hearing, isn't that a bit of a conflict of interest? Because she's hearing this evidence over here, and then she's going to come over to here, and she's supposed to just be taking this evidence from this case. So
much about this whole deal that doesn't make sense, and this is just another one in a long list. You know, it's unbelievable. It's riveting viewing. It's getting to the point. I was at a stage there for a long while where I just didn't want to see anything about it. But we're at the end game now, and it's saucy, it's juicy out there.
Oh, man. This is when all the good stuff's coming out. I had a moment, it was about 2 weeks where I was like, no, I know everyone's sick of this, I'm sick of this. And then I was like, you know what? This is actually fucking, I love this. So I do. Oh, yeah. I love this. Matt Booty's telling people to fuck off. That, to me, absolute gold.
Dude, he won over a hell of a lot of Xbox fans.
Oh yeah,
with that one, because there were a lot of calls going back to last year saying that he wasn't managing the studios correctly. He had too much on his plate. 23 studios were too much for one guy. He's not showing us any of the updates. There was a lot of sort of the side eyes going at Matt Booty. But after this email, they're like, no, it's all good.
Yeah, he is the man. Absolutely. But look, guys, in the chat,
I just think that if it's all fair, if everything's fair and just, the deal goes through without a fuss.
Yeah.
That's if it's fair and just.
If it's fair and just, it'll go through. Yeah, look, I absolutely. If anything's going to make sense, like that would make sense. But again, as Hoke said, you can't account for crazy, so I'm not counting those chickens. You guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing. I think I checked at one point. I haven't even been checking. I'm normally got everything running and checking, and I'm doing all this sort of stuff in the background. I just sort of chilled with this one and just had a good conversation with Garuda. But you guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing. I think we had like 100 in here. So
we
thank
had
you.
Over 100. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks everyone for coming in, spending your time with us. Really appreciate it. Garuda, you're an absolute champion, man. Thanks for coming on. It's been a bit impromptu and extremely rough. It's not normally how I do things, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just jump on and talk about this because
talking about about my head.
But yeah, thanks for coming on and having the conversation. Like, it's been absolutely amazing. It's good to see you in the flesh. So yeah, let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to, what you'll be playing, what you're looking forward to, and how things are looking for Garuda in the next week or so.
Oh, no, man, I don't thank me. I thank you. I still sort of pinch myself that you even asked me to come back on time and time again. I'm just a random dude. I was literally born in a Twitter space, so fighting ponies in Twitter spaces, and that's where I was found. But yeah, look, man, the best place you can actually find me with the most frequencies is right here on your channel. I seem to be turning up here every other week. So I'm like you feed me once and I never go away. So yeah, look, you can find me here. I haven't kicked off my own content just yet, but I'm in the process of doing so. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, building a PC, and I'm working out that it's not as easy as I hoped it would be, or as cost effective. And I'm working a hell of a lot to try and pay for it. I haven't quite resorted to the street corners yet, but I might have to do that. But yeah, look, I'm playing Diablo 4. It's awesome. And 2023 is just so good for games, man. Go play games and watch ponies cry.
Absolutely, man. And again, everyone who's new in the chat, guys, please hit subscribe. Everyone who's not, hit the like button. And I'll see you all on Friday, 8 p.m. EST for Xbox Infinite. And have a good night. See you guys later.
Peace. Thank you.